So, without much further ado, we're going to continue doing this, because I did feel that yesterday we didn't get much done, to be fair. So today we're going to do just that. Gonna get more done, hopefully. So I have like 2.5 hours basically before I need to go to bed again, so this is gonna be somewhat limiting the amount of what we can actually do today. In case you have forgotten, for all the random talking we did, we basically had a nice little talk with the people. They are now allowing us to somewhat get to exploring the city. Doing the little pink-haired tour guide, and that's kind of where we left off. Now I did something in preparation. Because you see, I realized, even with the money we have, we probably don't have enough money to buy all the shit from the store. So I actually went ahead and played a little bit more, like an hour, of just running around farming some gold so I can buy everything, which means at this point in time we're once again very poor. But since I didn't want to take away the pleasure of having the town exploration done, we'll basically do it now, for your leisure and pleasure. Well, that's a depressing start to a fucking tour. I was like, yeah, remember that blondie you met yesterday? Well, parents are dead. Everybody's like, well, that sucks. Oh, hello there, little strategy. Still the same keys we've been playing for a while. Memories of Celceta. Set up right after the adventures in Ys 10 and the Nordics. Oh, we're gonna continue there. Basically just for a little bit, because I don't really have much time today. 2.5 hours basically is probably the biggest I can get. And, well, in case... Actually, I don't really remember when you joined yesterday. I don't, specifically. But basically we arrived at the next town. We found the grave of Adol Christian. Yes, Adol starts his journey very profoundly by losing his memory. We have regained some memories, mostly stuff from the past, like childhood memories, and stuff related to his adventures in the Great Forest. But apart from that, not much, yeah. So at this point, he has no fucking clue who Kaya is. Like, literally no fucking clue. He barely remembers his own name. But yeah, we arrived at the other side of the Great River. I can actually show you on the map this river. Now, this is all the shit we've done over the last few days. And then we went through the underground ruins, these ones here, all the way down here, arrived here, found the grave of one Adol Christian. Then we went, well, all the way up. We found the nice little town here, the Highland town, and have been, for once, not welcomed by getting imprisoned, but welcomed by everybody basically pissing their pants because they're like, fuck, it's a ghost. Which was new and exciting. And after that we were invited to the mayor's house, basically. Talked a little bit about their god, who is apparently a winged creature, and how he has a tendency to impart wisdom and knowledge into people's heads to, you know, further humanity and shit like that. Very, very godlike things. And since Adolf still kinda would like to get his memory back, rather obviously, and ideally meet with said god being, because he's curious as fuck, obviously, we are now in the town doing a bit of a, you know, guided tour, guided by little, you know, pink-haired one here. She's not very good at leading, but she's very good at explaining things, and that is what we're gonna do first and foremost, while I'm getting the pipe ready. I really wish the internet had been a bit more stable a bit earlier, but it is what it is. I'm happy that it just works. What do you have to say, little Dario? I found the one who built Adol's gravestone. I mean, he did a pretty good job of it. Well, it looks pretty nice. Well, I mean, it is the sort that counts. It's nice that you made me a gravestone when you thought I was dead. That's one hell of a conversation to have, I would say. Ah, Jesus. A very good question. So you buried all of Adol's stuff in there, eh? Ah, I smell grave robbing in my near future. Is it really grave robbing though if it's your own grave that you're opening? I mean, what's there to feel guilty about? He got a job to make a gravestone. He then went straight ahead and made a gravestone. That's not a crime, is it now? In case you were wondering why I had to do some farming on my own and lonesome, yeah, those weapons they have, they're not cheap. Not cheap at all. Even my, golden Pickard enhanced bank account of almost 60,000 is not enough, which is the whole reason why I kinda just went ahead and did it off screen. And now we're just going to do the city tour until its obvious conclusion, and then we'll be loading the other save game so that we can continue while having all the weapons. It's a bit of a nuisance because technically speaking you can't get every item, as in every weapon, in one playthrough. I did kind of explain this before, but there is one side quest in Celceta that you do where you have to pick a weapon, either a sword or a gauntlet, to test out. And then you get basically the finished version. I can actually show you in the inventory how that looks. See, swords. I picked, of course, a sword because, well, fuck everything else. This is the sword you get originally, the Spectacular Heat Sword, which, well, burns you alive when you equip it. Which you can, of course, kind of counteract if you have the right talisman for it, which, of course, I do. The, where is it? There. Which makes the quest a lot easier, but once you're done, the little lady starts working on it a bit more, and you get the finished product, the flame sword. But that's all nice and dandy, but that means, you know, there's at least a symbol here that tells you you had this sword at one point. But you cannot get the same then for the gauntlets, meaning that will always be staying empty unless you decide to play a new game plus and get the rest of it, which annoys me greatly because in most Ys games, especially the older variants, it is rather satisfying to have your inventory filled up. Ever since Ys 1 or 2 I had this, how to put this, obsession almost, with all slots in the inventory, which are of course limited, because there's limited items in the game, to be filled up. So it's kinda like, you know, God damn it. On a bit of a brighter note, I of course yesterday went straight ahead and pre-ordered the ticket for Ye Olde Movie, so that nothing can go wrong, because honestly I hated the idea of, you know, just waiting until the day going there and being like told, well, fuck you, I sold out. I don't think it happens. I don't hold it for a realistic perspective, but you would never fucking know. Then having to crawl back and go like, yeah, sorry guys, nothing happens, would be kinda bad. I don't want that, basically. So now everything should be nice and set up for the 26th? Yeah, 26th, according to my little note here. And nothing should go wrong. Looking forward to it. As I said, it's been a few years at the very least since I had seen anything on the big screen. It looks like there are lots of bugs. Pretty good. You know, when it comes to this village, I have a distinct feeling. That's a lot of heritage nonsense going on here. So basically, you know, if your parents were scholars, you're gonna be a scholar as well. It doesn't even matter if you have any aptitude for that profession or anything, it's just how it goes. Meaning their blacksmith has a long line of family that were blacksmiths before him. These scholars have long lines of scholars that before it. I mean, to be fair, the accumulated wealth of experience could probably compensate for some incompetence. But you know, I always found the idea of inheriting positions to be somewhat stupid. It's actually the greatest weakness of any monarchy, because if the first king, a warrior king, conquers the land, he unites the people and all of that, that's great. But he might not be a good politician. Now, if you raise his son, the next one in line, to be a good politician, he might be a good ruler. But if you go down the line long enough, sooner or later you will find that one foul egg that will be just fucking incompetent at everything. No boy, that guy is still going to be the one in charge. And that sucks ass, doesn't it? Because sadly, while you can, for example, breed animals to be faster, or you can breed animals to be more breedable, technically speaking, these are options that you can try to achieve with the human mind and its intricacies. It's a bit more difficult to guarantee a good result, to put it mildly. Human breeding is not really that efficient, let's just say. Also because, well, technically speaking, we also not have that much offspring per session, to be put it mildly. And even then, just combining the right genetics does not actually, of course, guarantee the wished for end result. If you take the two most beautiful people and breed them, that doesn't mean that you get, well, beautiful children. You have a better chance, but considering how many genetic combinations you can get just out of the human genome, oh boy, you can suspect at least some, to put it mildly, missuccesses, failures. I don't want to call them failures, that's kind of mean, but yeah, failures is kind of what it is. If the originally presented scenario is your goal, that is. Well, sounds pretty godly. Never falls ill. Been around for a few hundred years. There's just, of course, that one singular problem, and that is actually the reason why we assume, to be fair, that Adol has actually lost his memory, namely the fact that when you leave the Highlands, you're supposed to be forgetting everything about the Highlands and, well, the old god guy. But it is not what happened to Adol, no, is it? Adol has forgotten a bit more than just that, hasn't he? Just a little bit more, including but not limited to his own fucking name. That's not, well, specific forgetfulness. That is very, very broad, to put it mildly. Okay, so yeah, probably at some point gonna get some quests here. Not now, of course. Instead. Seems to be picked a battlefield. Oh, it's probably a game, isn't it? I like people coming up with games. So, what do you have to say? Ah, I have a guy observing the river. Let me guess, his father before him had also the same job, as has the father before him. Strangely dressed individual, a man and a woman. Let me take an educated guess. The woman had some rather inflammatory dress on, to put it mildly. The man wore strange armor. Come on. Ah, told you so. Yep. It's our friends from the other side. Actually, to be fair, you know, Mr. Armour actually made a few good points about beast taming that I am somewhat willing to accept. The lady, however, just had fun laughing at shit. Like, I like using the darkness in people's hearts. Is like, yes, everybody has that. We all have our dark little secrets. It's good to see that we kinda... I want to say lost them for the moment, but it's not like they were ever following us in the first place, so... Not a completely true statement, I suppose. Wonder what they have planned. I mean, they must have a plan. I hope. Otherwise it would be kinda boring. Also, they make good returning villains, don't they? To be fair, nobody should be surprised that Adol, even without his memory, manages to find his way quite literally back wherever the fuck he is least expected. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Also, I don't think Adol has any twin brothers that could take his place. It looks magical. Oh yeah, isn't that the place where you can later on enhance the artifacts, I want to say? Was that in this game? The problem, you know, I mean, in my mind, most of these games at this point have kind of fused together in one long line of story. And so I do sometimes get confused with the individual games' mechanics. Yes, try to explain machinery to the poor, uneducated people. I mean, technically speaking, that's easy enough, you know. Everyone who has ever constructed something like a... I don't know. I guess they're not really... They're hunters, first and foremost. They're not really having any machinery or any tools that they use for farming and shit. I was about to say, you know, if you have a plow or something... While not strictly speaking a machine, it gets closer to the idea. Because you always liked, or would probably like to work off something that the other party understands, if you try to get them to understand a more complex version of that. Because a machine at the end of the day is, after all, a more complex tool. That's kind of difficult, but I mean, you know... actually, both sides are kind of primitive in that particular regard. That's the worst explanation I've ever heard. Complicated contraption thingies that do stuff. I guess technically speaking, since there are some dungeons with traps in this particular world, you could probably just point to one of these traps, you know, things that use pressure plates or something, go like, look, that's technically speaking a machine. Because it is. A machine with a very specific use. But still. Yes, I do love simple traps like that. Just a simple pressure plate. Just something, you know, that pulls something taut or, you know, potentially rips a little bit of rope in order to unleash a little bit of a spring mechanism. It's simple. It's actually simple enough to build one of those, potentially at least, even without any... well, a modern knowledge. So it is somewhat more realistic than some of the other more funny things. Of course, you also have other classic, like, you know, just build a nice little pit wall or something. Surprisingly efficient, you know. All you have to do is, you know, make a hole, put some rather unfriendly things that you will land on the bottom, and then make sure that you either have a mechanism or something that hides the fact that there's a giant fucking hole that you can fall into. Simple is best. I mean, technically speaking, aren't we all blocking the entrance? Well. Yeah, she brings it down to a nice point. It's like, well, I have no idea what you're doing, but it sounds amazing, so you must be a good, a cute person. It's okay, fair enough. Oh, she's quite sure of herself. It's like, bow to me now, peasants. I shall soon inherit this workshop and become the great test. Test. At my chosen field of work. Then again, is it really her chosen field of work, as I said before? They do have a tendency to imply that everything position-wise seems to be inherited, so I guess it's not so much of a choosing, but more of a divine calling, basically, because I'm pretty sure that such set of rules is probably directly from, you know, a winged old godman himself. Whatever scholars wedding or make scholar babies. Hey, it does seem to be the fact that every position is inherited. Which means that, you know, technically speaking, these children are even that you don't have a choice. But then again, how do you... I mean, if you become a tailor and you married a guy, I guess he's going to become a tailor as well. But then again, what about his calling? I'm pretty sure his family has something as well. How does that work in marriages? Does it just stay with the calling, or is there some wriggle room where a person can actually, you know, go like, listen, I would really like to work with my wife. Horrible idea, by the way, you should really not try to do that. But, you know, maybe they're young and innocent enough to not understand that yet. Still with enough wiggle room to go like, you know, I'm supposed to be, I don't know, a guard or something, but could I instead become a tailor? I wonder indeed. Maybe nobody ever thought about that. It just went, you know, along with it. Ye church. I was about to say, is God flipping me off? No, it's not. He's just raising his finger in expressive gesture, but not insulting one. Would have ever been rather funny. Imagine the statue of your God, just, you know, raising the middle finger. But see, strategy, the problem I have is that for us, of course, there was always a certain amount of wiggle room. However, imagine living in this particular village, you know, God is real and he's quite literally determining things. Like, you know, who gets knowledge to invent new shit, who gets what position, and then you have specific positions like Lisa, for example, who is responsible for getting the new people, whenever her God determined that person needs to know something to come along, and others. So if you're already set in your ways and your children are going to inherit your position over and over again, so a scholar who has a child, well, you have that, but you have to pair up. If every individual has one specific job, and you need two people to create offspring, rather obviously, I know, surprising as that is, then you have two people of two different jobs. I mean, technically speaking, maybe God has just ordered them to, you know, create two children then, so that, you know, both lines are kind of staying connected. Maybe. But that is not a fail-proof system, is it now? So I do kind of think there is probably some wiggle room there. You basically, you know, once they become a familiar unit, they basically just become bound to one job or the other. But that would also mean that you would have to have every job set up with at least 2 to 3 people, and later on pairs, in order to actually keep it going. It's an interesting topic, actually, to think about. And as I said, it's not really a good system as far as I'm concerned. Because inheriting a position does not mean that you are suited to a position. What? Yeah, I mean, kinda. It's probably gonna be something that will have some safe proving, so that at any given time, any given generation, there will be people filling out every position that is there and needs to be filled. I know, I'm pretty sure the God has been around for several hundred years, which means the village has probably been around for a long time as well. Maybe not as long as God, but they have been around for quite a while. Considering that they're, well, stone buildings and shit here, not just, simple huts made of wood or something other less permanent thing. So I do think probably gonna be around. And so I do believe the system should be around probably a long while. And as I said, you can build in some fail proofs to keep it going, but it's still stupid. What's the point if you have somebody in your village who's really good at fighting, and then go on and tell him that, well, you're gonna spend the rest of your life being a scholar? Why? Well, because that's what your parents are. It's fucking stupid. You're gonna lose out on potential. And maybe, just, he's just good at fighting. That is all he's good at. He sucks at the whole scholarly thing. He doesn't treat books with any sort of respect. He has no idea how to take care of them so they don't get damaged. And he's just gonna be making everything a royal mess. That sounds fucking horrible. He's also not gonna be very happy. As I said, it is not an ideal system that is proposed here, but oh well. Or maybe every single generation god just goes ahead and reapplies positions. That would probably solve this problem very well. Basically now, once everybody in a given generation is becoming of age, varying for the privilege of finally getting done being a child and start breeding the ever-living shit out of everybody else, as teenagers at some point start somewhat, going towards. Maybe then God goes like, okay, listen people, form a line. Starts looking at the people, goes like, are you kind of brawny? Can't get you all the sword? Well, you got now. Fuck off. Next. Looks at the lady, goes like, I think your hands are kinda, look kinda handy. Look somewhat dexterous. I'm gonna be tailor now. Fuck off, next guy. And so on and so on. And then he retreats to his little tower and waits for the next generation when he has to once again show up and tell these stupid little humans what they're supposed to be doing. Of course, every once in a while he sees a nice little blondie like Lisa and goes like, you know what, you're gonna work directly for me. Okay, now fuck off to my tower. Next. I mean, it is kindness in a one way. It is a kindness. I feel my theory somewhat confirmed, because if Lisa is the most popular maiden in all of Ireland, then God was like, yep, that's mine. I smell a subplot here. Hello, Apostle. Yeah. God seems to have a par chance for making his apostles females. He's a man. I guess he's a man at the end of the day himself. An ancient one at this time, but... I mean, given half a choice, wouldn't you, too, find it rather refreshing to have a bunch of nice young maidens serving you, instead of, some old, gnarly man? I can see it. I can absolutely see it. So you're basically somewhat the mayor of the town then, in one way or another. Interesting. Yeah, we've already learned of that, didn't we? Yes, we do. Still bears the question how precisely she brought Adol here, or anyone else for that matter, if they haven't actually used the underground passage. And the information we did receive was that it looked like the underground passage hadn't been used in quite a long while. Maybe he just, took paper plane building one step further and built a giant paper plane. or taught her how to build giant paper planes to fly across the river. I wouldn't want to bet my happy little ass on that particular thing being safe, but I mean, you know. What one can only speculate. For the moment it is. Well then, where to next? I'm pretty sure we've seen everything that we could see in the village. If I overlooked something. Je bid everybody adieu. Bloody fucking bitch stealing my lines here. But well, you shall be forgiven. You shall be forgiven for once, lady. I'll remember that. Well, little lady in this particular case. About El Deal. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be interesting to basically meet some people who go like, yeah, we are praising and believing and praying to God. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure, I've known that from the mainland. There are many people who did that, so what's special about your God? They're like, well, the one thing that is special about our God is that he lives next door, in a tower. That would be actually rather shocking if I met people like that. Because at this point, even I would be very curious and go like, really, can I meet your God? And they're like, well, stranger, I don't know. We have people for that choose if you can. Yeah, about the belongings of a certain deceased adult Christian. Well, they have been buried indeed. Time for some grave robbing. And I would still ask the question, is it really grave robbing if you're opening your own grave? I mean, technically speaking, I'm sure your grave, technically speaking, doesn't belong to you, because, well, somebody else usually has to pay for your grave. But technically speaking, I mean, there is your fucking name written on it, so... I wouldn't call it grave robbing. Because you're not robbing it. You're not robbing the dead. The dead literally is not dead. He's just wanting stuff back. I don't see a problem with that. I find this to be rather reasonable. Well then, now this is the point where I had to start going around and getting myself some more money, because as I said, stuff in this shop is fucking pricey. But since I already did all of the hard labor beforehand, smart as I am, I can just go here, load the other save game. Oh god, it's a bot, isn't it? But I have viewers, bot. Why would you offer me more viewers? Can't I just, you know, continue doing what I'm doing and get more viewers by myself? Do I really have to be annoyed by your existence? The answer is no, I don't. Well, where was I even going with this? Let me finish my thought process here. Right, I bought all of the weapons, and you can see we have now a nice little claymore and shit, and the next gauntlet. These are the 2 gauntlet slots we can't get, because, well, as I said, these are part of the quest. For the super weapon, I've got the new knife, spear, and a mace. A mace for a character, oh well, we have 2 maces now for a character we don't even have yet in a party, but it doesn't matter. Then I bought the lamellar armor, because I do like the standard armor, and there's some more variants here for both men and women's, respectively. I looked at them and I was like, yeah, I like more depth, apart, you know, from the minor strength bonus they give, so I decided to just buy 1 of each to fill the slots in my inventory, and that is all I did. And apart from that, nothing else happens, basically. I have not yet went ahead and visited the grave, which is what we're gonna do next, because, well, as Adol so politely has written down in his journal, let's go and dig me up. Sounds strange, I know. But it is Adol we're talking about. Let's see here. I just want to make sure there isn't anything else. No. I was about to say. Sometimes in some of these games you do find some moments between actions where you can do something that is usually helpful or amusing. These are helpful in giving you a special item, or helpful in other such ways. Or amusing, as in trapping Fina against the wall and measuring her most aggressively. I'll never let that but one thing live down, for as long as I live and breathe. Well, apart from that, for the most part, it's straightforward. Which means, since I think it's going to be quite a while until the next one, we need a big amount of money again, we can actually just, you know, make our life a bit easier by taking the quick route and start digging up Adol Christian's grave. Let's get digging.
Yes, sir.
Come on, Doran. As I pointed out, it's not really grave robbing if the dead guy is standing there with the shovel, using that shovel to dig up his own grave. A stone coffin was unearthed, and hasn't a lady lid was slit back to reveal. Oh. An empty coffin. Small scrap of paper, you say? It's a notebook scrap, and somebody deliberately took something out of Adol's notebook. I received the mask from... The mask, you say? As I originally mentioned, what we're playing now is basically the smoothed together version of two games that were once published as CS4 by two different companies that were not at all welcome, until Valcom decided to take both of these games, their storylines, and smoosh them together to create what we're playing now, to bring this whole thing full circle. If memory serves, one of them was actually called, what was it again, Sun Mask or something? Oh. Let me take a look, see if I can actually see this. Yeah, right, one was called Mask of the Sun. This was Dawn of Ys. Someone stole my stuff. Yeah, someone must have stolen your stuff. I mean, it should be easy enough to tell. Listen, you go up to the grave, and then if they tell you they buried your stuff in there, the grave doesn't seem disturbed before you start disturbing it, then that's probably the case. But then, when was your stuff stolen? Was it before they buried it, or was somebody coming along later, unburying it? Yeah, that's the word I'm just gonna use here. Fuck you. Took out the stuff, and then reburied the empty coffin, in order to fool everybody else. Questions? Yes. A mask. Special little mask. Wouldn't it be interesting to find it? Unwell, you say? Didn't you people just boast about how he's never sick? And now he has a chronic disease all of a sudden. Yeah. Well, either that or she's lying out of her fucking ass in order to keep us away from him for some reason. Which is also an option. In these it almost appears that any and all places that Adol visits indeed have a tendency to attract trouble in unprecedented quantities. Especially lately. And yes, it is true that he just doesn't remember just how much and how often his sheer mere presence has attracted trouble to the people. And to him personally, mind you. What's on your mind, Durin? Yes, it almost seems that the more likely explanation would be that she's lying. A very unsurprising thing to consider. Well, let's do it then. Sneaking out into the night to have a nice little session with God. Sounds interesting enough. Well, good thing I already stocked up on all of the supplies we need because, well, quite pricey. Looking at my money, I have like 2,600 now. And I think I needed like 80,000 almost. Was it 80,000 or 70,000? I don't remember. It was quite a bit of farming. A good hour of it just running around killing beasties. Yeah, that is true. Actually, are you going to introduce me to the... this? Because I'm pretty sure this workshop was special, if memory serves. Well, yeah, it is. The same traveling merchant that we met before. Gazok. That's an interesting little tidbit. Okay, fair enough. That is our fault. But then again, we didn't know. Hmm. Leaving you on the accessory list that I would like to get my hands on for the immediate future. You're actually quite skilled. You can make the better variants already. That's good. Stuff like Wanderer's Cloak and Hero's Cloak. Those items are actually kinda neato to have around because, well, they do get more powerful the more enemies you slay. Although, of course, there is a upper limit to that, otherwise it would be fucking insanely powerful. But I would suggest, for the moment at least, we wait a little bit longer. Because of course there's still an untold number of chests just waiting outside in the wilderness to be opened and potentially containing some of these items. And I'd rather save my money and my resources for the moment, basically. As for reinforcements, I think I'm gonna go for the same course I already somewhat pointed out, where it's just easier for us basically to continue down the line and try our hand at beating what's in front of us. And if we find our equipment lacking, be it either protective or in other ways, that is then when we'll choose to enhance it. As for what material to enhance it with, I mean, we do have some nice amounts of exoskeletons still in our possession, if memory serves. At least we should have. Yeah, we have like 18 of these motherfuckers. These are pretty good for enhancement, so... Well, actually, they're good for two reasons. A, they give nice bonuses to both weapons and armor, and on the other side of the argument, they're pretty easy to farm for one of the more rare equipments. Because there's a place where you can get like, I don't even know, what is it, 7, 8 of the motherfucking giant boars in a relative quick succession and then run back and respawn them by leaving the area and coming back, so... Kinda advisable. Because, you know, what point is there if the best potential equipment you can get by refining the most rarest of fucking materials sadly is a material that you can get only like one of by killing like 20 monsters of a very dangerous variant, while said monster only is available in like 1s or 2s at best in any given area. That's not really going to work well. Unless you have a really, really long breath, of course, in which case you might. A Sanctum of Storms, indeed. Okay, give me 1 second because I do think that is Twitch. Yeah, Twitch is going well. That pleases me greatly. Yeah, pleases me greatly indeed. So we shall now climb the sanctuary approach. Oh, it's already way the other side. Interesting. Really not good at timing the fucking Sonic Wave thing. That was kinda sucky. Okay, we have 2 ways to go, since it's always good to look at the side paths in order to see if there's anything interesting there. Not from this side, fair enough.